I didn't see him. What are you looking so sad about, Jeff?
I'm surprised. I mean, I'm really insulted. That's not right, what you just said.
What do you mean, what I just said?
I mean, I'm getting a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talking. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talking about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, say, one time during my career, I won a bomber money tour.
I would have been a bum compared to you.
What's happening, my people? It's Cast Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Box Story, bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Salute to Miss Cass, because without her, none of this would be possible. Salute to everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cass Sports, the Box Story. Today, great 1950s middleweights has the family today. It's Wednesday. This is the Hump Day edition of Cass Sports, the Box Story. Another good show of boxing history. Salute to the drunk Irishman in the building. Great 1950s middleweights today. We got about 6 of them. Of course, we're going to talk about Sugar Ray Robinson, BOBO OLSON. Randy Turpin had a win against Sugar Ray Robinson. Gene Fulmer, Dick Tiger. And was Marvin Hagler the greatest middleweight of all time? We're going to talk about that today. But great 1950s middleweights today. Hump Day edition, middle of another big week of boxing history. Friday, we're going to profile an active fighter since this is the first Friday of the month. Haven't nailed it down to who it's going to be yet. It's going to be a fighter actively competing in 2025. So let's get started with today's show with our fighter today. To get things rolling, as we always do. Look back at a fight from the past. It can be a fight that happened last weekend, like yesterday, Shakur and Teofimo. Or it could be a fight from the 50s, the 20s, the 1800s. So without further ado, let's get into today's fight of the day. Mike Rim in the building. How's your mom today, Mike? Mike's mom had a fall yesterday. Let us know how she's doing, please, Mike. Appreciate you. Mike Rim is in the building. Today's fight of the day is Rocky Marciano versus Jersey Joe Walcott 1. September 23rd, 1952. Susie Q comes through. Susie Q comes through for The Rock. Oops, excuse me. Okay, here we go. The fight Rocky Marciano came closest to losing was his first fight with Jersey Joe Walcott. Jersey Joe Walcott was a defensive warlock. He was well ahead of Marciano on the judges' scorecards in their first fight when disaster struck in the 13th round. Let's not forget that many boxing fans are convinced Jersey Joe had beaten the great Joe Louis in their first fight in 1947. That was one of the most controversial decisions in boxing history, as a majority of ringside journalists considered Walcott the clear winner. Okay, Mike says, she's doing okay, nothing was broken. Just hurt her knee. She's back at the nursing home. She had semi-dementia, if you still believe she can walk at 92. Wow. Well, that's good news, Mike. Okay, everybody. Mike's mother had a fall yesterday, but he says she's doing okay. Nothing was broken. 92 years young. Wow. Okay, Mike, appreciate you. Okay. So, all right. So let's continue there, but that's good news. Got to make sure that Cass Sports family is doing okay. All right. Okay, Rocky Marciano and Jersey Joe Walcott. Susie Q comes through. And Drunk Irishman says Hagler was the top 4 middleweight of all time, but Robinson, Greb, Monzon would rank above Hagler. Okay, I agree with you. Always one of them, Drunk Irishman. I got Greb and Monzon above Hagler, but I got Hagler in front of Sugar Ray. I got Sugar Ray as the best welterweight, but middleweight, I got Greb, Monzon, and Hagler in front of him at middleweight. Yeah. I got Sugar Ray 4. Number 1 at welterweight, but yeah. Those 4. Hagler, Monzon, Greb, Sugar Ray. Yeah, okay. So yeah, the Joe Louis fight in 1947, everybody thought Jersey Joe had won that one and got robbed in that one. So now he did get the title he beat as a Charles. So now I had him the defense against Rocky Marciano. when disaster struck in the 13th round. Now, let's not forget that many boxing fans are convinced Jersey Joe had beaten the great Joe Louis in their first fight in 1947, which was one of the most controversial decisions in boxing history, as a majority of ringside journalists considered Walcott the clear winner. Now, Jersey Joe had also beaten the great Ezzard Charles in 2 consecutive fights. The first to win the World Heavyweight Championship, and the second to defend it. Okay, I believe the second was his first title defense against Ezzard. So the great Jersey Joe Walcott had beaten Joe Louis, and in many estimations, he had beaten Ezzard Charles twice. And he was beating Rocky Marciano in their 1952 fight for the World Heavyweight Championship. Jersey Joe was defending. Okay? Walcott was the champion. Rocky Marciano was the challenger. And for 12 rounds, the champion had given the challenger a real schooling. In fact, Walcott had dropped Marciano to the canvas in the very first round. Okay? It put Rocky down in the first round. And over the course of the fight, Walcott had opened cuts on Marciano's face and had his left eye swollen. After 12 rounds, Walcott was clearly in control and was so far ahead on the points that Rocky needed a knockout to win. But then the heavier puncher cornered Walcott against the ropes. Yeah, Rocky got Jersey Joe against the ropes. Marciano hit Walcott with a devastating, short, vicious, violent right hand that left him crumpled on the canvas. Yeah, Susie Q left him crumpled on the canvas. Years later, and Jersey Joe did not get up. Okay. Yeah, that was the one, Mike, with his head spun around like the Exorcist. Yeah. And years later, when asked about the toughest ring encounter of his illustrious career, Rocky identified his first fight with Jersey Joe Walcott as his biggest test. And let's not forget that Rocky Marciano had just turned 29 a few weeks before the fight, while Jersey Joe Walcott was 38 and about to turn 39. So what would have happened if Walcott had been in his prime? Well, that's another one of them what ifs. He wasn't, and he got knocked out. And that's the end of it. Fight of the day, Jersey Joe Walcott and Rocky Marciano, and there's your winner, Rocky Marciano. And before we get to these 1952 middleweights, I want to talk about the Four Kings real quick. Yeah, I'm a Four Kings expert, Four Kings of the 80s. Let's have a quick talk about them. With a short fight of the day, so let's take a quick look at, like a 5-10 minute look at the Four Kings. And then we're going to get into the show. There they are, left to right. Hagler, Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, the Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran. Okay. It was the late great journalist George Kimball who coined the phrase Four Kings to describe the superlative quartet of boxers: Sugar Ray Leonard, the Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran, the Hitman Tommy Hearns, and Marvelous Marvin Hagler, whose extraordinary pugilistic prowess enraptured fight fans throughout the decade of the 1980s. Before Kimball's book of the same name hit bookshelves in 2008, a legendary 1990 VHS release had labeled the same grouping the Fabulous Four, while Boxing Monthly magazine went with the Fantastic Four when producing a souvenir supplement celebrating their achievements. Whichever moniker you prefer, there's unanimity of agreement that boxing undoubtedly benefited from the fact These four Hall of Famers battled each other an impressive 9 times across an unofficial round robin of high-class matchups throughout the 1980s. The Four Kings era began on June 20th, 1980 in the Olympic Stadium in Montreal, Canada, when Roberto Duran outslugged Sugar Ray Leonard over 15 rounds. And it ended on December 7th, 1989, when the same two fighters, Sugar Ray Leonard widely outpointed the Panamanian Roberto Duran over 12 rounds at the Mirage Hotel in Las Vegas. Leonard and Duran started it, and Leonard and Duran ended it. First and last fight of the Four Kings series. Across this time span of 9.5 years, or 3,458 days to be precise, the Four Kings brought us controversy, violence of an intensity that has scarcely been witnessed before or after in the prize ring, spectacular knockouts, questionable judging, and a great fighter quitting in circumstances that still defy belief to this day. In his book subtitle, Kimball labeled the age of the Four Kings as the last great era of boxing. A melodramatic statement in line with a tendency towards premature obituary writing, which has plagued boxing throughout its history. As far back as 1895, heavyweight champion James J. Corbett declared, "Pugilism will not last. The people and the press are against it, and in a year or two, all there will be left of it will be an occasional encounter in a barn for $1,000 for each fighter." Despite the inherent pessimism of its subtitle, you can see where Kimball was coming from. Since the 1970s and 80s, boxing has gradually retreated from its status as a staple of mainstream attention to a niche sport, which occasionally breaks out to a wider audience. Nevertheless, the fetishization of the Four Kings era is a reflection of certain boxing fans and writers' tendency to praise the past and lambaste the present. It's all too easy to view the Four Kings through rose-tinted spectacles and ignore some of the undoubted deficiencies of their rivalries. For starters, Duran was too small to be a legitimate threat against Hagler or Hearns, really. He was one of the greatest lightweights of all time, most certainly, but he was well past his best when he took Hagler the distance in a disappointing fight in 1983, and even more so when knocked silly by Hearns in a brief slaughter in 1984. As for Hagler, the fact he failed to fight any of the other Kings more than once leaves several questions about the exact extent of his greatness frustratingly unanswered. His shootout with Hearns was a classic, but had they fought earlier, as originally planned in 1982, maybe we could have been granted a rematch or a classic trilogy between the two men rather than a one-shot deal. By the time Hagler and Leonard finally squared off in 1987, both men had probably peaked by then. The controversy of the judging in the Leonard-Hagler fight also undermines, to a certain extent, the idea that the Four Kings operated in some utopian golden era. The Four Kings, or the Fantastic Four, whatever you called them, the combination of Duran, Hagler, Hearns, and Leonard spelled greatness. Now, Juan Guerrero's 118-110 scorecard in favor of Leonard in the Hagler fight that night in Las Vegas remains as outrageous and egregious today as it was then. And the hotly debated split decision in Leonard's favor left the duo's rivalry crying out for a conclusive rematch. The Leonard-Hagler 2 never materialized, left a bitter rivalry, unfulfilled and unsettled. Finally, it is often overlooked that the last two fights in the Four Kings series, when Leonard was gifted a draw against Hearns and then outboxed the shell of a husk of what was once Roberto Duran, did little to enhance the reputation of any of those involved. Now, please understand that none of this is said to undermine or diminish the Four Kings, whose array of rivalries are among the most compelling boxing has ever produced. Rather, these points are to emphasize that if we fall into the trap of over-idealizing the past, then we often end up underestimating the quality of what is on offer to us in the present. The Four Kings. Just a little talk on the Four Kings before we get started. That's all there they are. Hearns, Leonard, Duran, and Hagler. Wow, Duran got a flat top. Man, that's a first for me. Is that Roberto Duran? No beard, a flat top. Yeah, that's the first time I ever seen him looking like that. And I've seen a lot of pictures of Roberto Duran. Wow. Okay, but today's show, great 1950s middleweights. Okay, we're gonna start out with who was the best boxer in history? Sugar Ray Robinson or Muhammad Ali? Let's take a look at that. How's everybody this hump day afternoon? Middle of the week. Heading for the weekend. Yeah, great 1950s middleweights today, though. We're gonna start out with Sugar Ray Robinson. Yeah, I got him number 4 at middleweight, though. I got Greb, Monzon, and Hagler in front of him. Drunk Irishman had Greb and Monzon in front of him. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Sugar Ray Robinson, we're going to start out with. He's called the greatest fighter of all times. Here he is. Equipment is moving slow. Just waiting for this thing to change. There we go. All right. Let's get into today's show. Yeah, most people say it's Sugar Ray, not Ali. Even Ali said Sugar Ray was the greatest of all time. Himself. Yep. That was his idol. He wore the same boxing shorts, trunks. Black with that white stripe down the side. Okay, here we go. One moment. Now, was Sugar Ray Robinson the best boxer ever? There are generally 3 or 4 boxers discussed as the best ever pound for pound. Ezra Charles, Muhammad Ali, Harry Armstrong, and Sugar Ray Robinson. But almost all experts rank Sugar Ray Robinson as the best ever pound for pound. almost all say it's Sugar Ray. Was Sugar Ray Robinson the best ever? Who knows? But a powerful case can be made for Ezra Charles and Muhammad Ali, and a very good one for Henry Armstrong. But the vast majority of experts unhesitatingly named Sugar Ray Robinson as the best of all time, pound for pound. Robinson's dominance was best summed up after his rematch with Hall of Famer Fritzie Zivit in January of 1942. Zivit's corner protested the fight being stopped after the 10th round. James P. Dawson of the New York Times wrote about Robinson at his peak at welterweight against a generationally great opponent, that those who criticized the fight being stopped. They were criticizing a humane act. The battle had been a slaughter, for want of a more delicate word. That's how good Sugar Ray Robinson was at his best. The experts say Robinson was the best ever at any weight, better than anybody. Publications Bleacher Report, Yard Barker, ESPN, all of them have Sugar Ray Robinson as the best ever. Ring Magazine. And Sugar Ray has won every honor a fighter can earn. Okay, every honor a boxer can possibly earn, Sugar Ray has won it over the years. Sugar Ray Robinson was named Fighter of the Year for 1942 and 1951 by the Ring Magazine. That's the big one. By the way, this year, Ring Magazine named Bud Crawford. The WBC said monster anyway, but you know the WBC wasn't going to pick Bud after what he did to him, wouldn't pay their sanctioning fees after Canelo fight. But Ring Magazine is the big one. That's the original, the oldest. Fighter of the Year, Trainer of the Year, Fighter of the Year. Ring Magazine is the gold standard. And Sugar Ray won it in 1942 and 1951. Muhammad Ali has the most. He had 6 of them. Sugar Ray was named Fighter of the Year for 1950 by the Boxing Writers Association of America. He was named Fighter of the Decade for the 1950s by the Ring Magazine. He was inducted into the Ring Boxing Hall of Fame in 1957, the World Boxing Hall of Fame in 1981, and the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1990. That's the big one, the International. Of course, Sugar Ray is in all of them. Sugar Ray also was named the welterweight fighter of the century for the 20th century. Also the middleweight fighter of the century. This is the 20th century, 1900s. And he was named, that was Ring Magazine, also named Fighter of the Century by the Associated Press. Ring Magazine also named him the best fighter of the past 80 years. Ring Magazine also named Sugar Ray Robinson as the 11th greatest puncher of all time in 2003. All his other honors, he's in the 100 knockout club. Okay, he had 109 knockouts in his career. Historian Bert Sugar ranked Sugar Ray Robinson #1 in his 2006 book, Boxing's Greatest Fighters. And that's the #1 historian of all time, Bert Sugar. ESPN also ranked Sugar Ray as the greatest fighter in history. There's his pink Cadillac in front of his club, Sugar Ray's, Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., all of them used to go there. Incredibly, Sugar Ray Robinson had 75 fights before he finally got a shot at the World Welterweight Championship, which he then held for 4 years. And then, having cleaned house, he moved up and won the middleweight title. 5 times. 5 different times. He won the middleweight crown. The Carmen Basilio was hating. We're going to talk about the Carmen today, 1950s middleweight. Carmen said, Sugar Ray, in order to win it 5 times, you had to lose it 4 times. Carmen was just hating. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he moved up from welterweight and won the middleweight title 5 times. Okay? Incredibly. Sugar Ray Robinson won the undisputed title 6 times in 2 weight classes. No one else comes remotely close to that. Undisputed title 6 times in 2 weight classes. Even as an amateur, he won the Golden Gloves Featherweight Championship in 1939 and the lightweight title in 1940 as an amateur. That means he was the best in 2 different weight classes, 1 year apart. Robinson's amateur record was 85 wins, no losses. 85 wins, no losses. With an incredible knockout ratio of 69 knockouts as an amateur, 40 in the first round. Famed boxing writer and historian Jack Newfield wrote of Sugar Ray Robinson. Ray Robinson was the perfect fighter because he had no weaknesses. He had one of the greatest chins of all time. He was never really knocked out in a 25-year career. Only stoppage was when the heat exhaustion got him. And the referee went down before he did because of heat. 104 degrees out there that day. He made it to the 13th round. Only stoppage of his career, 25 years. Another special thing about Sugar Ray Robinson was how many times he was able to get off the floor to win. He always rose to the occasion. Always. Why did Newfield and Ring Magazine say that? Sugar Ray Robinson had every single skill and asset needed to be the best ever. Sugar Ray was as close to perfect as any boxer in history. In baseball terms, he would be called a 5-tool player. By all accounts, he had sublime all-around skills, blazing speed, uncanny timing, what the Associated Press called murderous punching power, 109 knockouts, 20 in the first round as a pro, and unusual durability. In instruction film, Bertram Job, another boxing historian, said about Robinson. An instruction film about boxing attributes should just contain shots of the best fights Sugar Ray Robinson was in. He is no less than a Picasso of boxing. More than anyone else in the 20th century, he celebrated the sport as an art form, a puncher as well as a technical and stylish boxer. The outstanding champion in 2 weight divisions knew how to combine the strategic means of the sweet science almost perfectly. Yep, almost perfectly. A puncher, a master technician, fast, durable, and had command of every punch a boxer uses. Those things are timeless. And anyone saying his skills are dated knows absolutely nothing about the sweet science. Again, Bert Sugar, boxing historian, said in marveling about Sugar Ray, Robinson could deliver a knockout blow going backwards. Sugar Ray Leonard, who was granted permission by Sugar Ray Robinson himself to use the most famous moniker in boxing history, said, yeah, Sugar Ray would have asked Sugar Ray Robinson, could he use that nickname? And Sugar Ray Leonard said, beauty, power, greatness, perfection. Sugar Ray Robinson was the best. It goes without saying that Sugar Ray Robinson was regarded as the greatest fighter in the world, pound for pound, and rightfully so. His competition may have been the best ever. His resume may have been the best ever. The original Sugar Ray threw down against 12 future Hall of Famers over 29 fights, winning 23 of them. If you're looking for some perspective, Muhammad Ali took on 8 Hall of Famers over 14 fights and went 11-3. Sugar Ray Robinson stopped 8 Hall of Famers, including Jake LaMotta, one of the toughest men to ever set foot in a boxing ring. Robinson's competition is possibly the best in boxing history, fighting 18 world champions and defeating 10 Hall of Famers, including Sammy Angat, Fritzy Zivik, Henry Armstrong, Kid Gavilan, Jake LaMotta, Randy Turpin, Rocky Graziano, Bobo Olson, Carmen Basilio, and Gene Fulmer. Robinson was undefeated at welterweight champion from 1946 to 1951, and again a 5-time middleweight champion. He beat 7 undisputed champions, winning the undisputed title 6 times in 2 weight classes, welter and middleweight. The first time Sugar Ray pounded the undisputed welterweight champion, the champion prudently made it a non-title fight. In the second, he was forced to put his title up and promptly lost again to Sugar Ray. His pro record in his early years will also never be matched. Sugar Ray had a 9-year winning streak, undefeated, with 91 fights in a row to start his career. 91 fights in a row to start his career. Wow. Robinson fought and beat a murderous roll of opponents, including Hall of Fame fighters. These are the Hall of Famers. Jake LaMotta, Randy Turpin, Carmen Basilio, Bobo Olson, Gene Fulmer, Kid Gavilan, Fritzy Zivik, Joey Giardello, Rocky Graziano, Henry Armstrong. And the bulk of these fights were at middleweight, when Sugar Ray himself was a natural welterweight, who started his career at lightweight. Yes, incredibly. The greatest welterweight and middleweight who ever lived started his career as a lightweight and had his first 20 fights at lightweight. Sugar Ray Robinson was and is the best ever, according to boxers and trainers who would know. Legendary trainer Emmanuel Stewart says, "I don't think we'll ever see anyone exceed Sugar Ray Robinson's accomplishments in our lifetime. I don't think there ever will be another Sugar Ray Robinson." Emmanuel Stewart. Emmanuel Stewart also said, "I think Sugar Ray Robinson was pound for pound the greatest fighter, period, when looking at all the divisions in the sport." The fight doctor, Freddie Pacheco, stated, "Sugar Ray Robinson was nearly too good a boxer to be believed. Sugar Ray was sleek and slick, with amazing reflexes and quick silver legs. He was a dance master, capable of raining a storm of pinpoint punches from a bewildering array of angles." Larry Holmes said, "Sugar Ray Robinson is the standard any boxing technician is measured by, and none have surpassed him yet, not even close." Muhammad Ali called Sugar Ray the king, the master, my idol. Jake LaMotta, who he fought 6 times, And Jake won. Jake said, there was never anybody in a boxing ring better than Sugar Ray Robinson. Nobody. Never. Former heavyweight champion Max Smelling once said of Sugar Ray Robinson after seeing him fight, he was the greatest. A distance fighter, a half-distance fighter, an in-fighter, scientific. He was wonderful to see. Another former heavyweight champion, Joe Louis, known as the Brown Bomber, and considered by many to be the best heavyweight boxer ever, once called Sugar Ray Robinson, after watching him fight, the greatest fighter ever to step into the ring. These are all the greats felt about Sugar Ray. At welterweight, Joe Louis said he had speed, incredible technical skill, and knockout power in both hands. Legendary champion, the body snatcher Mike McCallum noted, Sugar Ray Robinson wasn't especially strong, yet he packed a punch like the kick of a mule. The secret of his special stiffener, he said, lay in perfect coordination and the speed of delivery with which he unloaded on his befuddled victims. As Teddy Atlas, a noted boxing trainer and historian, once told Ron Borges for the World Boxing Championship series for HBO, Sugar Ray Robinson not only won his set rematches, he stopped the guy. He was magnificent after a loss. He corrected all his mistakes and took his opponent apart if they fought again. If I had a guy who beat Ray Robinson, I'd be sure to do one thing. Don't give him a rematch. Sugar Ray had more than talent. He had genius. But Jake LaMotta, his opponent 6 times, Hall of Famer, middleweight champion, said it best. I fought Sugar Ray so often, I almost got diabetes. The 3 toughest and best fighters I ever went up against were Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Robinson, and Sugar Ray Robinson. Jake LaMotta. Yeah, 3 toughest Jake fought: Sugar Ray Robinson, and Sugar Ray Robinson. Oh shoot, I don't went too far. Okay. In the end, the experts make it Robinson as best of them all. All right, Sugar Ray, talking about some great middleweights today. Nate, Carl Bobo Olson. Yep. Carl Bobo Olson, another great middleweight. And there's Carl fighting Sugar Ray. Yep. I think he fought Sugar Ray like 4 times. We're going to talk about it now. Bobo, Hawaiian boxer. Greatest boxer to ever come out of Hawaii, by the way. Also, there he is, fighting Sugar Ray. The next middleweight up, Carl Bobo Olson. Okay, here we go. Yep, the Hawaiian. Okay, here we go. The tough Carl Bobo Olson. That's him fighting Sugar Ray right there. First and foremost, perhaps Carlo Bobo Olson was a passionate fighter, a hard and thoroughly schooled battler, like so many of his great contemporaries in the late 40s and fabulous 1950s. For that was the slow fading era that proved to be the glorious autumn of boxing's so-called golden age. Olson showed no fear when he went into battle. All business and urgency, he resembled an impatient terrier trying to break free from the leash. He jabbed, hooked, hustled and bustled, jinked and ducked, yet never in such a definitive way that made his style easy to categorize. He was a dominant world middleweight champion who was frequently drained at the weight after last-minute jogs and steam baths. He beat top-ranked light heavyweights and even had the occasional bash at the dreadnoughts. He fought the best and only lost to the best in 115 professional fights in his career. We tend to forget just how good Carl Olson was at his very best. He was 3-1 over Archie Moore when he challenged Archie for the 175-pound crown in 1955. As fanciful as it may sound now, Olson was being seen as a viable challenger for Rocky Marciano's heavyweight championship. Bobo was bobbing along and enjoying a fantastic run at that time. Approaching the peak of his powers, he began his great winning streak with a commanding victory over Randy Turpin for the vacant middleweight championship at Madison Square Garden on October 21st, 1953. Olson was all over former champion Turpin that night, launching a succession of wave-like attacks throughout the 15 rounds that must have seemed interminable to the beleaguered Englishman. The capacity crowd of 18,869 roared in anticipation whenever Bobo surged forward and trapped Turpin on the ropes. Yet, the start of the battle gave little clue as to what was to follow. The eager Turpin came out fast in his familiar and almost uniquely upright stance, pestering and puzzling Olson with a persistent, stinging left jab. Bobo grabbed whenever he could, the only way that he could avoid the tormenting blow. Heavy at 157 pounds to Olson's 159 and a half. Randy seemed to be trying to get the business done quickly and continued his busy attack through the second and third rounds. But two things were noticed by those at ringside in the third round. Olson was gradually gaining a foothold, and Turpin, worryingly, was gulping for air. In the fourth round, Bobo began to roll in earnest, and the scales tipped dramatically in his favor. A meaty hook to the body had Randy hanging on, and the first drops of blood from a wound to his left cheekbone began to fall. Turpin's successes thereafter were few and far between. He rattled Carl with long rights to the chin in the 8th and 11th rounds, but Olson just wouldn't give his opponent sufficient room to conjure a turn of the tide. Chugging forward and punching away, Carl shut Randy down with repeated volleys that confined the hurried European champion to a largely defense-only mood. The telling rounds were the 9th and 10th, when Olson made a significant breakthrough. He floored Turpin at the end of the 9th round, and then Randy looked in dire straits in the 10th when Olson pummeled him to the canvas for a count of 9. Blood flowed from Turpin's cut cheek, and was left with a mountain to climb. The decision was unanimous for Bobo. with only Judge Arthur Susskind seeing the fight as a close affair with a tally of 8-7. Judge Charlie Shortell had Olson winning by 11-4, while referee Al Burrell tabbed it 9 rounds for Olson, 4 for Turpin, 2 even. The Associated Press saw the battle as 10 rounds for Olson, 4 for Turpin, 1 for Randy. Hawaiian Swede. Carl Bobo Olson came from mixed stock. His mother was Portuguese, his father Swedish, and the family ended up in Honolulu, Hawaii when Carl's father was stationed there with the armed forces. Bobo, who was born in the summer of 1928, became known as the Hawaiian Swede during his boxing career. And he started scrapping early in life, like most kids who have it in the blood. He fought in the streets, in the local gyms, and in bootleg fights at the army camps. Bobo learned fast and always came back for more after a beating. In the army camps, he was going up against experienced fighters, many of them professionals, and more than holding his own. The hook was in, and Carl turned professional at the age of 16, making his debut in Honolulu in the summer of 1944. With their usual brand of ingenuity that comes naturally to fighters, he had undercut the required age limit by 5 years, thanks to a false identification card and a couple of hastily arranged manly tattoos on his arms. In the days when a fighter either stayed busy or got forgotten, Bobo zipped through the ranks at a fair old lick as he racked up 40 fights in 5.5 years and dropped just 2 decisions. Wow, what is that, like 12 fights a year? 40 fights? No, 8 fights a year, right? 40 fights in 5 years. Average 8 fights a year. And he only lost 2 by decision. He was beating tough cookies like Tommy Yaros, Anton Radic, and Milo Savage, and edging closer to the top boys of the division. The third reverse of Olson's career came in 1950 and was certainly no disgrace. Third loss. At the Sydney Stadium in Australia, he was outscored by that gifted ace, Dave Sands, whose untimely passing a couple of years later would leave the boxing world wondering how great he might have become. Sands, incidentally, had notched 110 fights by the time of his death at the age of just 26. But undeterred by the loss, Bobo was back in action in his native Honolulu just a month later and recorded 3 straight victories before meeting the great Sugar Ray Robinson for the first time. The 2 men dashed for the Pennsylvania State version of the Middleweight Championship at the Convention Hall in Philadelphia in October 1950. Nowadays, most of the highlight reels on Sugar Ray Robinson's career show only his last 2 fights with Olson, when Carl was knocked out in 2 and 4 rounds, respectively, by sudden thunderclaps that seemed to come from the guards. Those spectacular finishes often obscure the fact that Bobo gave Sugar Ray some serious and intense competition in their first 2 fights. Olson gave a fine account of himself for 11 rounds in the Philadelphia fight, the first one, until manager Sid Flaherty reminded him that Sugar Ray Robinson would come on like a train in the later rounds. It was the kind of well-meaning advice that either encourages a fighter or plants a destructive seed in his mind. Carl suddenly became more conscious of what he was doing and a little more cautious as a result. Sugar Ray seemed to smell an uncertainty and gunned Bobo down in the 12th round. So how did Bobo react to that loss? He kept on rolling, of course. He countered the second punch defeat to Dave Sands with 7 victories before having a second crack at Sugar Ray Robinson in San Francisco in 1952. Now Sugar Ray was the undisputed champion, still royally magnificent, but no longer untouchable after his 2 adventures with Randy Turpin. Bobo gave it everything he had as he followed a smart and somewhat impotent game plan. Mimicking Robinson as best he could, Carl set about replying in kind to everything Sugar Ray threw, and then some. Sugar Ray's combination punching had perplexed Olson in their first fight and ultimately proved to be his undoing. So Bobo fired off volleys of his own in the rematch, keeping the great man constantly occupied and banking his fire. It was a good plan, too. Now, Carl lost the decision, but the fight was a very close affair in the eyes of many. Mike Mazik is in the building. Salute, Mike Mazik. How are you today? We just looking at some of those great 1950s middleweights today. First Carl Bobo Olson, greatest boxer ever to come out of Hawaii. Salute Mike Mazik. Okay. Yeah. He lost his second fight to Sugar Ray Robinson, but it was much closer than the first one. Years later, Olson told writer Pete Heller, "In my mind, Sugar Ray was pound for pound the greatest fighter that ever lived. To know that, I came real close like that when he was knocking out guys like Rocky Graziano and Jake LaMotta. I was glad just to go the distance with him and come so close to winning. I had a lot of confidence after that." And he did too. His admirable record proves it. But did he really ever have the confidence to beat Robinson? He surely gives us the answer to that question in those few telling sentences. Nevertheless, in the following 3 years, Olson would prove all-conquering against the best men around. Sugar Ray Robinson cleared the path with his early retirement, and Olson became the top dog with a succession of sparkling victories. After vanquishing Randy Turpin for the vacant title, Bobo entered his golden years of 1954. His first challenger was welterweight champion Kid Gavilan, who slapped on too much extra poundage for his own good and lost vital speed as a consequence. Bobo was much stronger and more vibrant throughout the 15 rounds, firing off punches all the time and keeping consistent pressure on the Kid. Carl had all but perfected his crowding, hustling style, where the objective was to cramp the other man's space, cut off his options to maneuver, and not allow him sufficient time to fashion a solution. Only on one occasion was Gavilan, normally such an exciting and free-flowing spirit, able to bring his famous bolo punch out of mothballs and tag Olson significantly. Carl proved emphatically in this fight that he possessed the good champion's gift of being able to assess his opponent's style and gridlock it. He was more or less Gavilan's equal in jabbing and certainly the master in short-range punching. Olson also proved adept at avoiding blows by deflecting them with his elbows or cleverly stepping to one side. Ring Magazine editor Ned Fleischer was greatly impressed when he concluded, "So ended Gavilan's dream to win the middleweight crown, and take his place with Sugar Ray Robinson as holder of the welter and middleweight championships at one time. He learned, as so often been recorded, the good welterweights do not defeat good middleweights who possess stamina, power, courage, and the other assets that go with an excellent fighting machine. Such a fighter is called Bobo Olson. Tightrope. It is surely further testament to Olson's ability and determination that his success as a middleweight came in spite of the tightrope he consistently walked in draining his weight to the required 160-pound limit. It became a constant saga. Before he trimmed his opponents, Bobo had to trim the pounds. He was a pound over the limit for his next challenge, Rocky Castellani, and had to work out for an hour to shed the offending surplus. Once again, Olson pulled off the delicate balancing act, outclassing Rocky over 15 rounds at the Grand Old Cow Palace in San Francisco. Yes, subscribe to the Drunk Irishman. There's this link there. Castellani was a top contender and a tough man, a typical example of the hardened men of his era. Rocky won 65 of his 83 fights in a 13-year career that began in 1944. Who did he fight? Now there is a question that prompts a veritable cannonball to come thundering back in our direction. Try this little list for size and then cross-reference the glittering names: Harold Green, Walter Carter, Charlie Fusari, the clever Tony Gennaro, Kid Gavilan, Ernie Durando, Gene Hairston, Joey Giardello, Ralph Tiger Jones, Johnny Bratton, Billy Graham, Pierre Langlois, Gil Turner, Holly Mims, Gene Fulmer, Sugar Ray Robinson, Joey Giambra, Bobby Boyd, Roy Calhoun. Against the fiery Olson, however, it was felt by many that Castellani squandered a golden chance of glory by fighting negatively and showing the champion too much respect. Rocky discovered early that his right hand could not only tag Bobo, but hurt him. Yet the immensity of the occasion seemed to keep Rocky in handcuffs, as too often he clutched and retreated. When he finally shed his inhibitions and decked Bobo for a brief count in the 11th round, Castellani failed to follow up on his advantage. The knockdown angered Olson, who claimed he had been struck on the shoulder by a blow that was more of a shove. The champion tore from his corner in the 12th round and let loose a big right hand of his own that knocked Rocky down for a 9 count. The challenger was hurt and glassy-eyed, but survived the crisis to last the full rout and lost by a wide decision. It seemed there was no stopping Bobo Olson and that there were no boundaries to his domain. The formidable likes of Archie Moore and Rocky Marciano were becoming realistic targets. Over the next 8 months, Olson saw off Pierre Langlois in another successful title defense and surrounded that triumph with quality victories over Garth Panther, Ralph Tiger Jones, and Willie Vaughn. But the gates of opportunity really opened when Carl outpointed former light heavyweight champion Joey Maxim in San Francisco in April 1955, decking tough Joey twice in the process. Archie Moore was up next, and Olson was a big favorite to beat the old man. Quality Street. A fighter can only improve and realize his true potential if he is fighting frequently against quality opponents of all levels who can teach him to expand and hone his technical repertoire and enhance his mental toughness. Sadly, that isn't always possible now, as the field of competition in all weight classes is too barren and too lacking in depth of talent. How else is it that a man can now challenge for a world title after 10 or 12 fights? These men aren't whiz kids or geniuses. Many of them disappear off the radar completely after that brief moment of glory in which a cheap and tacky belt is slapped around their waist for winning a paltry portion of something that was once revered. Thomas Hill in the building. What's up, Thomas Hill? Talking about some 1950s middleweights. Bobo Olson right now. You got four of them: Sugar Ray, Bobo Olson, Randy Turpin, and Dick Tiger. So, finishing up Bobo Olson. In Bobo Olson's time, the pickings were rich and the professors were plentiful. Top contenders, be they boxers or sluggers, were seasoned men of great boxing knowledge. Even the so-called journeymen, many of whom would be world champions today, could teach a rising prospect every trick in the book and give him a sore beating into the bargain if he didn't have his wits about it. Dan Quaco, director of the International Boxing Research Organization, has some strong and pertinent feelings on this subject. When historians such as Mike Silver was compiling his excellent book, The Art of Boxing, Dan offered Mike the following thoughts. It's like playing tennis with someone that's not as good as you are. You're not going to improve, but playing with somebody that's as good as you are will improve your game. And if you start playing with opponents that are even better, you're going to become a better player yourself. And that's the same thing in boxing. Let's say you were to evaluate at random any of the top middleweights from the 1950s. For example, Bobo Olson and Joey Giambra, and made a list of their opponents, and then gave their opponents a grade based on overall skill level and the type of opposition they face. Then do the same with some of today's fighters. The outcome would be a no-brainer. The old-timers' level of opposition is going to win every time. When you take a look at who Giambra and Olson fought, guys like Tiger Jones, Joey Giardello, Dave Sands, Billy Graham, Ernie Durando, Spider Webb, you can see the difference in the caliber of opposition from today's fighters. Yeah, you can clearly see the difference. So his career went on, and for the first time in his career, Bobo seemed to be losing his way and becoming a forgotten man. The fierce competition of the boxing ring in those days was reflected in the unforgiving and fickle nature of its media. If you weren't winning, you quickly plummeted down the rankings and out of the spotlight. There were too many other fighters to write about to indulge in sentimental articles on how a former champion was making out. It is here that we have to admire Carl Olson's incredible resilience, for he was digging himself out of no man's land when he dusted himself down to forge a second career as a ranking light heavyweight. He was never among the most durable or rugged of fighters, but he was a rock of a man in spirit. He needed to be, since his battles weren't confined to the ring. As times changed and journalists were permitted to hit harder, so the details of Bobo's complex private life became more juicily discussed. There was plenty of material there for the mischievous, including OLSON's bouts of heavy drinking and the fact that he was supporting 2 wives and 8 children before his first missus tumbled the plot. Perversely, one couldn't help but admire Bobo for his ability to compartmentalize his complicated life and keep his head above water. Like a stubborn mule, he simply refused to be shunted into retirement during that last phase of his career, even though his notable successes were encountered by dispiriting defeats. Nor was he content to pad his record against opponents who could do him no harm. Bobo continued to fight and beat the best of his class, impotently forcing his way into the light heavyweight top 10. He notched victories over Mike Holt, Sixto Rodriguez, Sonny Ray, Jesse Baldry, Wayne Thornton, and Andy Kendall, and fought draws with Giulio Rinaldi and the highly capable Hank Casey. On his 38th birthday in 1966, OLSON cheekily took a decision off European champion Piero Del Pape. But the defeats were painful reverses. Bobo was knocked out by Doug Jones and Jose Torres and dropped the decision to the rising Johnny Persall. The final curtain came down after a punch loss to Don Fulmer at the Oakland Arena in November 1966. The Torres disaster in one electrifying round at Madison Square Garden hurt Bobo the most, for he had been so confident of victory. A title fight with Willie Pastrano would have been the prize. OLSON was clearly distressed in his dressing room. This had to happen, he said, just when I can't stand something like this to happen. At Tool Shores restaurant that night, Bobo declined steak and champagne and ordered the modest fare of a plate of hash with an egg on top. It was an honest and oddly classy little concession. Bobo OLSON. Okay? Next, let's talk about Randy Turpin. How good of a boxer was Randy Turpin? Anyway, he beat Sugar Ray Robinson once, lost the rematch, but he did have a win against Sugar Ray. Huh? There's Randy. Yeah, he beat the Sugar Man once. Sure did. Let's see how good Randy was, though. How good of a boxer was Randy? He had some serious personal issues at the end of his career, too. Committed suicide. They said it was a murder-suicide. They said he shot his little daughter first and then killed himself, but a lot of people don't believe that's what happened. But, you know, the case was never solved. They ruled it a suicide in the end, but a lot of people say no way he did that. A lot of people think he was murdered. But that's how his life ended. But let's talk about how good of a boxer he was. Like I said, he beat Sugar Ray Robinson one time. Pound for pound best. So he had to have some skills. You don't just beat Sugar Ray Robinson by luck. And it was in 1951. So, you know, Sugar Ray was still young, close to his prime. Just getting the middleweight where he won the title 5 times. Okay, so yeah. He did a very good Sugar Ray Robinson. Randy did. Randolph Turpin, English boxer. So how good of a boxer was he, though? Glad y'all asked. Let's talk about it. Now, Randy was very, very, very good. Okay? He clearly defeated Sugar Ray Robinson in their first fight in London in July of 1951. And had Sugar Ray in deep trouble in the rematch in New York in September later that same year, 1951. Okay? Randy had a tendency to lean on the ropes and let the other boxer try to hit him. And Sugar Ray got Randy on the ropes in the 10th round in the second fight, and referee Ruby Goldstein stopped it with 8 seconds to go in the round. Randy protested he could go on and said he was not seriously hurt, but he was up against the ropes, so. And Randy went on to claim the Commonwealth light heavyweight crown after that by beating Don Cockell in June of 1952. Cockell fought well against Marciano in May of 1955, lasting 9 rounds, and Randy beat him. Randy fought Bobo Olson for the world middleweight title in New York City on October 21st, 1953, but he was soundly defeated. Yeah, we talked about that in the Bobo profile, remember? Randy was never the same after being knocked down by Tiberio Matti, where he hit the back of his head on the canvas in a jarring manner in their European middleweight championship fight in May of 1954 in Rome. Randy did win the vacant Commonwealth light heavyweight title in April of 1955 against Alex Buxton in England, but he lost it to Gordon Wallace in October of 1955, also in England. In November of 1956, he beat Alex Buxton again for the British light heavyweight title. Randy defended the title in June of 1957 against Arthur Howard, and he went on to fight, but he could never get another shot at the World Championship. And age and injuries were taking an incredible heavy toll on him. In his last years, he seemed to have been losing his mental balance. Yeah, toward the end of his career. Seemed to be losing his mental balance. Randy did. But he was a great fighter at his peak. Great enough to be one of only 29 undisputed middleweight champions. Great enough that he beat the incomparable Sugar Ray Robinson. And great enough that he sits today in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Okay? That's how great he was. And the Hall of Fame said about Randy, as a professional, he won the British and European middleweight titles before scoring a major upset over Hall of Famer Sugar Ray Robinson on July 10th, 1951 to win the world title. The victory over Sugar Ray made the hard-punching Turpin, a national hero in England. But his plaque at the Hall of Fame does not fully explain what cost him. Randolph Adolphus Turpin, known to a whole generation of boxing fans as Randy Turpin. He was born on June 7th, 1928 at Leamington Spa, Warwickshire, England. Born to a white mother and black father, his brother Dick also became a boxer and a middleweight contender the year before Randy entered the rankings. His brother Jack was also a successful pro boxer, featherweight. Now, his father died shortly after Randy's birth, and his mother was left to raise 5 children on a small war pension and her work as a domestic. Randy followed his older brother Dick Turpin into boxing at 9 years old. Like his brother, he was another poor kid who saw the sweet signs as a way up and a way out. Okay? Yeah. From childhood on, Randy Turpin was known as the Leamington Licker. As an amateur, Randy won 3 national junior titles and won the senior ABA championship in 1945 at welterweight and in 1946 at middleweight. In 1945, he won both the junior and senior ABA titles in the same season, the only person to have completed such a feat. 1943, ABA Junior Class A champion. This is in the amateurs. 1944, ABA Junior Class B champion. 1945, ABA Junior Class B champion. 1945, ABA Welterweight champion. 1946, ABA Middleweight champion. Randy, who had a black father and white mother, became the first black boxer and the youngest boxer to win a senior ABA championship. Randy finished his amateur career with a record of 97 wins, just 3 losses. In becoming the first black fighter to win an amateur ABA title, Randy followed in his brother's footsteps. Dick Turpin in 1948 became the first black fighter to win a professional British boxing title, following the removal of the color bar in Great Britain. Now, he turned pro in September 1946 and went undefeated in his first 17 fights before losing to Albert Finch and Warren Stock in 1948. And that stopped his rise up the ladder temporarily. Then he took 5 months off to regroup and racked up 21 straight wins when he came back, including knockouts of Finch to avenge that loss, and that won the British middleweight title. Then he beat Luke Van Dam to capture the vacant European middleweight title. And then he beat Sugar Ray Robinson to become the undisputed middleweight champion. June 10th, 1951, at Earl's Court in London, Turpin beat Sugar Ray Robinson over 15 rounds to become world middleweight champion. Turpin accomplished this by applying constant pressure to Robinson, using a huge strength advantage to manhandle Sugar Ray in clinches, in the corners, and on the ropes, and using his power to wear Robinson down with a constant body attack. Okay. Here's a shot of Randy and Sugar Ray right here, as a matter of fact. Let's take a quick look at Randy and Sugar Ray battling. I don't know which of the fights this is. Just a quick look at him and Sugar Ray. All right. I don't know if that was the one Randy won or the one Sugar Ray won, but they split 2 fights. Randolph Turpin, great middleweight of the 1950s. Okay, so, and it says Randy Turpin was Jake LaMotta with power. Where Jake was a little short was his lack of a knockout punch. Randy Turpin didn't have that problem. Turpin, with almost 70% of his wins coming by knockout, was far stronger and hit far harder than Jake did. In his early career, before time and injuries affected him, Turpin simply overpowered his opponents. And Sugar Ray Robinson freely admitted his loss and began to prepare for the inevitable rematch. Robinson was smart enough to have a rematch clause in their contract saying, "I have no alibi. I was beaten by the better man." Now the rematch, the first fight was in Great Britain, and the rematch was back over here in the Garden in New York. And of course, Sugar Ray won the rematch. And Sugar Ray wrote in his autobiography, "Randy Turpin would have been a tough fight for me at any time in my career. He was the strongest middleweight I ever encountered. He had knockout power in both hands. He cut the ring off well, and it had an awkward, tough, rough style that just was difficult for me. And the 2 inches of reach Turpin had on Sugar Ray, coupled with his strength, power, quickness, and style, would always have been a hard night for Sugar Ray. Of course, Sugar Ray won the rematch. 10th round, the referee stopped it. Randy complained, but he kept laying on the ropes. And, the referee kept telling him to get off the ropes, but he kept laying on him, so the referee stopped it. Now, Turpin angrily disputed that the fight should not have been stopped, saying, "The referee should not have stopped it. I was perfectly keen. There were only 8 seconds to go in the round, and I was covering up." Yeah, 8 seconds to go. The referee was Hall of Famer and all-time great Ruby Goldstein, who was 55-6 himself as a welterweight boxer before he became a Hall of Fame referee. He disagreed, saying Turpin was not defending himself when he stopped the fight. But come on, Ruby, 8 seconds. Come on, man. Turpin fought again for the title in 1953 against Bobo Olson, but he was not the same fighter, and Bobo crushed him. Time, ring wars, weight troubles, and partying left Randy increasingly out of condition, and against Olson, he was unable to apply the pressure style, which worked so well for him. Though he fought until 1958, he was never the same fighter, suffering kidney and eye injuries in the Olson fight. At only 29 years of age, Turpin retired from boxing. But money and personal troubles forced him briefly out of retirement 5 years later. But after 2 fights, one in 1963 and one in 1964, Turpin was forced back into retirement by the British Boxing Board of Control because of his deteriorating health. He was gone 2 years later. Yes, when the tragedy happened. 2 years after that, his last fight. Randy also fought great European fighters who were not well known in the United States and thus suffered in the rankings for that. And a sad end to a great champion. First retired at 29, suffered huge problems with loss of his savings and property. He was extremely generous with his family and friends, and his manager had not properly paid his taxes. Randy was forced to declare bankruptcy in 1962, forced back into the ring. And then the British Boxing Board of Control forced him to retire because of his deteriorating health. Diagnosed with pre-existing dementia, he took his own life in 1966 at age 37. So there are those who refuse to believe Randy would have shot himself and wounded his own daughter. He shot the little girl twice, but his daughter didn't die. Okay. And those doubts persist to this day. Yep. Fortunately, the little girl didn't die. And you gotta just kill yourself if you gotta kill somebody. Why shoot the little girl? Just kill yourself, right? I mean, yeah. But anyway, Randy Turpin. Okay. And then we have Gene Fulmer and Dick Tiger. Take a look at Dick Tiger. We talked about Gene Fulmer before. We got time. I think we might get both of them in. Gene Fulmer. Look at Gene Fulmer. First. And then Dick Tiger. Here, Gene Fulmer is first. How's everybody this afternoon? It's hump day. We got an active boxing Friday. I don't know who it is yet. First week of the month. Right? The onion farmer, Gene Fullmer, come from a boxing family. His brother was a boxer too. Not top level Hall of Famer like Gene was, but yeah. I can't think of his brother's name either. But Gene Fullmer, the irrepressible Gene Fullmer. There's Gene, the Cyclone, onion farmer. Did a couple of names. Okay, let's take a look at Gene. The irrepressible Gene Fullmer. In that charmingly twisted language that only fighters can make sound sensible, Carmen Basilio once said of Gene Fullmer, he did everything wrong, but he did it right. Carmen knew what he meant, and so did the rest of us. Even though cold logic so often takes a battering in the crazy world of boxing, we tend to stick with it as a measuring tool when confronted by those fighters who puzzle us. We assimilate the facts and figures and try to reach a logical conclusion. But prize fighters constitute a very special group of men. They cannot be number crunched, packaged, and neatly filed. They take pleasure in turning the natural order upside down and twisting it inside out. Nobody befuddled us more in the 50s and 60s than Gene Fullmer, the tough and bruising battler from West Jordan, Utah. It was as if Gene had watched Rocky Marciano and set his mind on becoming even more awkward, ungainly, and downright contrary than Rocky was. In his early days as an unbeaten middleweight, Gene's auditions would make even the worldliest boxing people wince and reel in shock. They didn't come any worldlier than Teddy Brenner, who was the matchmaker at the Eastern Parkway Arena in Brooklyn, New York, when he got his first look at Gene Fullmer in 1954. Brenner visibly sagged as he watched Fullmer lumbering through his workout with a crudely and lack of grace that would become all too familiar in the years to follow. To those who witnessed the session, Teddy's horrified expression was something to behold. Gene Fullmer was 24-0 as a pro at the time, with an impressive 19 knockouts on his record. How could he possibly look so bad? His most threatening opponents seemed to be his own feet. Brenner, fearing that Gene might trip over his feet and break his neck, implored Fullmer's manager, Marv Jensen, to take the kid back to the comparatively gentle environs of Utah for his own safety. Yeah, he said he's gonna fall over his own feet and break his neck. He told his manager, take this kid back home. What had Teddy Brenner seen? What had Teddy Brenner seen that had so dismayed him? He had seen a man who couldn't box or punch, whose awkward style would leave the average boxing fan stone cold. He saw a fighter who, for all his impossible awkwardness, could still be hit repeatedly with disturbing ease. Teddy kept watching and blinking, looking for that certain something that he might be missing. He couldn't find it. Kind of remind you of Navarrete a little bit, right? Awkward and doing everything wrong. But guess what? Gene Fullmer is in the Hall of Fame. Now, Brenner's harsh verdict shocked Marv Jensen, Gene's manager, but didn't deter him. Marv had believed in his man, Gene Fullmer, ever since he was a raw and enthusiastic young boy. At 8 years of age, Gene was taken along to the West Jordan Athletic Club by his father, Tuff, who asked Jensen to teach the lad how to box. Jensen saw at once what nobody else did. He had it, said Jensen. I knew it the minute I saw him. He had 3 things I could work on: strength, a good mind, and fast reflexes. I took advantage of those 3 things. Revelation. Gene Fulmer was a streaking revelation in his first years as a pro, battling his way through the middleweight ranks with his peculiar brand of bullish, cyclonic effectiveness. He was an exceptionally awkward revelation, to be sure, but nobody could beat him. He bulled, he charged, he hustled, and sometimes picked up as many lumps as he dished out. But he just kept on winning. The artists and the scientists of the ring must have gone back to their dressing rooms wondering what had just rolled over them. Gene just kept on winning for all his awkwardness and all the things he was in there doing wrong. He just kept on winning. First 24 fights out the gate. Starting out in 1951 with a 1-round knockout of Glenn Peck at Logan, Utah, Gene had taken his unbeatable run all the way to 29 fights. 29-0 by 1954. 29 fights in his first 3 years for Gene. Bear with me for 1 minute, please. Equipment malfunction. 1 moment, then we're going to finish up Gene Fulmer. Like Navarrete, man, did everything wrong in there. The guy, I think it was the promoter, he took him to work out, and the promoter said, take him out of here before the man break his neck in the ring. He was looking so bad. But he just kept on winning, you know? And he's in the Hall of Fame. So his manager saw something in him that nobody else saw, right? And he said he could work with him, and he took him all the way to the Hall of Fame. Yep, International Boxing Hall of Fame. Let's see if Navarrete can repeat that with his unorthodox style. Okay, let's get back to Gene. Okay, I don't know what was wrong with that thing. I can't pull it up. Oh, I know what happened. I'm sorry. Here we go. Okay, let's finish off Gene Fulmer. Okay, here we go. Back to it. The irrepressible Gene Fulmer. Yeah, the promoter told the manager, get him out of here, but the manager said, I saw something in it. And like I said, it took him all the way to the Hall of Fame. International Boxing Hall of Fame. Okay. Yeah, Gene started out 29-0. Yeah, he hustled and sometimes picked up as many lumps as he dished out. But Gene just kept on winning. When his first 29 fights, fighting mainly in his native Utah. He made his New York debut in November of 1955 with a unanimous decision over Jackie LeBeau, and followed that up with decisive quality wins over Germany's Peter Muller and future world champion Paul Pender. Gene was moving rapidly in the world-class territory, and his record over the next couple of years is testament to the depth of genuine world-class fighters in the middleweight division of that era. It was near impossible to maintain an unbeaten record in such a minefield of golden talent. When Gene lost 3 of his next 6 fights, people wondered if the cream of the division had tumbled the secret of the former style. The first harsh lesson came from Gil Turner at the Eastern Parkway Arena in April 1955. Sporting a 47-win, 7-loss record, Gil was a highly capable ring mechanic who matched Gene all the way for toughness and roughness. Turner knocked Fulmer through the ropes for a 9 count in the 6th round on the way to posting a convincing decision win. Gene learned from his mistakes and avenged the defeat just 2 months later by out-hustling Turner in West Jordan, Utah. Fulmer seemed to be on a roll again when he notched important wins over Del Flanagan and Al Andrews, but then suffered successive back-to-back losses for the first time in his career. Both were unanimous decisions, and both saw Gene hitting the deck. The classy Bobby Boyd turned the trick at the Chicago Stadium in a fight refereed by former champion Tony Zale, decking Fulmer in the 3rd round. Then came the handsome Argentinian Eduardo Lassi, a terrific puncher with a 63-6 record, who downed Gene in the 8th round of the Madison Square Garden fight. Never usually one to complain, Gene was always niggled by the Boyd knockdown, claiming that it was no more than a slip. Typically, Fulmer plowed on defiantly, beginning the 5-fight run that would carry him to a title shot against the great Sugar Ray Robinson. There's a valuable lesson to be learned here for the excitable OTT boxing crowd of the present era. Educational, competitive defeats never did harm a learning fighter, and never will. How many times now do we hear of a single loss being described as a major reverse or a disaster nowadays? Small wonder that the boxing fans of today, drunk on all the propaganda of the obsessive O in a fighter's loss column, should so hastily dismiss the great ringmen of yesteryear. They must look at all those defeats on Dick Tiger's record and wonder what all the fuss was about. The man is in the Hall of Fame. How did Gene Fulmer and his contemporaries cope with adversity? Well, for starters, they didn't take a year off to find themselves after a loss. They simply couldn't afford to. They went right back to the gym, eradicated the flaws in their makeup as best they could, and kept working to improve their technique and their attitude of mind. Told y'all, Willie Prep, after his first loss, he fought again the next week. Fulmer's losses to Boyd and Lassi were just 2 months apart, and both were tough and arduous affairs. Little more than a month later, after the Lassi fight, Gene was back in the ring at the Cleveland Arena in Ohio against no less a tough cookie than Rocky Castellani. Fulmer took a split decision off Rocky, and over the following 8 months, defeated Gil Turner for the 2nd time, Ralph Tiger Jones, Charlie Humez, and Moses Ward. That's taking care of business right there. Arnie Boxing in the building. What's up, Arnie? We was looking at some middleweights today, 1950s middleweights. Yeah, I was just talking about I did not like today's because the fans wasn't like that for one thing. You know, a loss didn't ruin you. A loss didn't make you garbage. Like I just said, Willie Pep, after his first loss, he got back in the ring the next week. Okay? We got fighters with 5, 10 losses in the Hall of Fame. Now, we harbor many misconceptions when we are young. Okay, so there's a Sugar Ray Robinson fight coming up. 1957. Now, Sugar Ray Robinson was no longer the robber of his peerless welterweight days. He was older, slower, and getting called out much more often. But he still was a great fighter. And it was a colossal achievement on Fulmer's part to dethrone the legendary Sugar Man. Okay? Still was a big win for Gene, beating Sugar Ray. He was very confident going into the Robinson fight. Him and his manager, Marv Jensen, worked long and hard to secure the fight, which only served to fuel Gene's motivation when he finally got the green light. The unsung challenger prepared diligently for his greatest hour. Gene recalls that he was very calm throughout his training camp. He didn't agree with the general consensus that Robinson was the greatest thing since popcorn. This view was shared by Fulmer's future opponent, Carmen Basilio, who insisted that Willie Pep and the superior technician of the two guards was the superior technician of that golden age. Gene would have 4 fights with the great Sugar Ray Robinson before their rivalry was concluded, but would not rate them among the toughest fights of his career. Nevertheless, they were fascinating and significant chapters in the history of the middleweight division, capturing the imagination of the boxing public. They pitted the aging artisan against the honest agriculturist, the scales deliciously balanced by the slow ebbing of Robinson's old magic and the rise of Fulmer as a dogged and infernally difficult man to beat. Now, Carmen Basilio was correct in his later observation of the cyclone from West Jordan. Fulmer did indeed do everything wrong, but few men could pick the confounding lock of the almost unique safe. The Fulmer camp hired tall sparring partners who were instructed to fight in Sugar Ray Robinson's style. Gene learned to cut the ring off on them, pressure them constantly, and not allow them to get their shots off. He knew that Sugar Ray liked to punch from long range, and that the way to negate the Sugar Man's wonderful skills were to shut him down. Fulmer practiced over and over in the gym, learning how to protect his chin from return fire as he bulled his way inside. And the great plan worked like a charm on the night of January 2nd, 1957, Madison Square Garden, their first fight. They fought 4 times, but this was the first one. The plan worked like a charm. Sugar Ray gashed over the left eye and sent through the ropes for a count in the 7th round, simply couldn't cope with the illogical, unorthodox bundle of energy that kept charging and washing over him. Gene won the championship by unanimous decision, and the purists went home and cried into their beer. They didn't cry in the car, they went home and cried into their beer. And Sugar Ray had to get another chance. He always did. Even as his 36th birthday approached and the last of his silky skills leaked away, people could not believe it when he lost. The freaks were treated as aberrations that had to be put right. So Sugar Ray just had to get a second fight. This time, however, those in the know believed that Sugar Ray was finally tackling a bridge too far. Now, going into the rematch at the Chicago Stadium 4 months later, Sugar Ray was a 3-1 underdog this time. It seemed unbelievable. Sugar Ray, an underdog? As somebody said, nobody was ever favored 3-1 over Sugar Ray Robinson. Fulmer was convinced that he could take the old man again and move on to even greater achievements. Robinson replied that with 6 ominous words that will become famous. No man ever beat me twice. For 4 rounds, it seemed that the experts had called it right, and Sugar Ray was deluding himself. Fulmer picked up right where he left off at in the first fight, hustling and bullying Sugar Ray out of his stride, attacking and pressuring all the time. Everything appeared rosy in Fulmer's garden, but one shrewd fellow had his reservations. His trainer, Marv Jensen, was deeply concerned by his man's sudden recklessness. Yeah, Gene got overconfident. Jensen saw that Gene was just too eager, too confident, and holding his hands too low as he went inside. Even against the aging Sugar Ray Robinson, these were dangerous mistakes to make, invitations to disaster. Jensen recalled, when Gene was swinging hard, he was leaving his chin open. I kept telling him to keep one hand up if he was going to swing like that. Fulmer clubbed away to the body and was marginally ahead after 4 rounds, but Sugar Ray remained patient as he sought to suck Gene into the quicksand. In the 4th round, Sugar Ray halted Gene's forward march temporarily with a combination of precisely placed punches. Fulmer took them well and probably thought that he had soaked up the best that the old champion could offer. Sugar Ray kept the faith. At his best, he could still read and dictate a fight like no other man alive. The master tactician had seen the encouraging signs and waited for the moment when he could drop the big bomb. The bomb he dropped that night was one of the most precise and devastating left hooks ever thrown in championship boxing. The perfect punch, they call it. It left Fulmer rising in a state of semi-paralysis at 1 minute 27 seconds of the 5th round, the first and only time in Gene Fulmer's career that he heard the doleful decibel. 10. 2 whiplash rights to the body from Sugar Ray had shunted Fulmer sideways straight into the perfect firing line. Game over. To his eternal credit, Fulmer was always admirably frank about his one visit to Dreamland. It's a sensation I'd never had before and one I don't necessarily want again. Robinson's best punch was any punch he could hit you with, but I felt without doubt that if I could beat him once, I could surely beat him again. I felt that if I put more pressure on him, I could maybe knock him out. This is Fulmer talking. In the 5th round, I moved in with my left hand maybe 6 inches lower than it should have been, and he slipped that left hook over the top and caught me right on the chin. All at once, the lights went out. I had never been knocked out. I had no idea what it felt like, and I can't tell you what it feels like even now. A disastrous defeat for Fulmer. He said he woke up and he saw Sugar Ray across the ring in the other corner. He said he thought it was between rounds. Sugar Ray was just waiting in his corner to come back out, but he was in a neutral corner waiting for you to wake up, waiting for Gene to wake up. And they called that the perfect punch. Yeah. Yeah. And we're gonna end it right there. Yeah. Gene Fulmer. We had Big Tiger, but we're not gonna get that one in. Oh shoot. Great 1950s middleweights today. Just Do Boxing in the building. What's up, Just Do? Coming up in minutes. Just Do Boxing. Bringing us that balanced, unbiased boxing talk. Okay, yeah, that's going to be it for today. Great middleweights. We're going to have an active fighter Friday for the profile because it's the first Friday of the month. I'm trying to see who won the other two fights. Gene Fullmer won the first one, and Sugar Ray won the second one. Who didn't win the other two? Okay, they didn't even. I got to go to BoxRec. We got to know. I think it might have been 2-2. But let's see what happened. And they stopped after the second fight. They had two more. Who won the second two fights? Anybody know? We're gonna know in a minute. I think it was 2-2. I think I read somewhere before, but I gotta make sure. Yeah, that was the only time Gene Fullmer was ever knocked. He got careless. His trainer said he got killed. He beat Sugar Ray that first fight, then he got overconfident. He was getting inside successfully, but he started curling his hand low, left hand low, when he got overconfident. And Sugar Ray, he was over. Sugar Ray still had that boxing IQ, and he saw that. He didn't let on that he noticed. He just waited for the right moment. He got that hook in there on it. You can't make mistakes against a wily veteran like Sugar Ray Robinson. No way. Okay, here we go. I got the BoxRec up. I'm trying to see who in the other two fights. It was 1-1, right? Okay, Gene Fullmer. That was the first one. Second one. Okay, the third one was a draw. Wow. Gene Fullmer won 2. Gene Fullmer won 2, Sugar Ray won 1, and the other one was a draw. So Gene Fullmer won the first one, Sugar Ray knocked him out in the second one. The third one was a draw. Gene Fullmer got a unanimous decision in the fourth one. So Gene Fullmer won that series, wow, over Sugar Ray Robinson. Sugar Ray said not many people beat him twice, but Gene Fullmer did. Might have been the only one. Wow, Jake beat him once. Okay. But Just Do Boxing, Irony Boxing, Thomas Hill, Mike Mazick, Mike Grimm, The Drunk Irishman, and Miss Cass. Appreciate everybody for stopping through today. We'll be back tomorrow for another episode of Cass Sports. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Box Story bringing you all of that boxing history. Everybody have a great afternoon. Just Do Boxing coming up in minutes. This is Cass Sports, the Box Story. Signing off.